A very good evening and welcome to the Fourth Estate. It is the 1st of June 2014, 2 days away from the Uganda Matters Day, and pilgrims have been walking from all over the country and across the region to attend the Matters Day celebrations. In the studio, tonight we'll be focusing on us, the media, the Fourth Estate. How prepared are we? How capable are we to handle and debate or shape the debate going into the 2016 general elections? Over the last few weeks, there's been a lot of debate within media houses and especially on social media about the capacity of journalists in Uganda, about their ability to shape the discussion in this country going forward. Let me introduce tonight in the studio. I'll start with Chris Obore. Chris is investigations editor at the Daily Monitor. Chris, very nice to have you.
Thank you.
There will be questions about your opinions and how they influence public opinion and how they share and how you can shape the debate and whether we actually have an impact as a media with what goes on in this country. They will be reading of the budget in about the next 13 days. Do we influence through our reporting?
But my opinion is my opinion. You also have yours.
Okay. I appreciate that. Brad Rulinda. Brad is not a media practitioner, but he's a public relations practitioner. Brad, very nice to have you.
Thank you, Charles.
And you are one of the biggest problems to media practice in Uganda because you're buying media, you're trying to influence opinion, you're trying to kill stories, you're trying to shape other stories and get them into the media.
Interesting, Charles. I think you guys have been selling these stories and killing them yourselves without us even getting involved. So you've been cutting us out of the business.
Okay. Melina Platus. Melina is a political science PhD student, has been a journalist, and I remember you from the times you interned with the Daily Monitor.
I was at your desk for a while.
Yes. So I thought you have been observing the media in Uganda for some time.
Yes.
She's also been a media activist.
Yeah? Media activist or media practitioner?
World Freedom Day, she never misses on that.
That's the day for the
yeah.
Third May.
She has marked.
Okay. And from The Observer, Edris Chigundo. Edris, nice to have you once again here.
It's my pleasure to be on Fourth Estate. Thanks very much.
Let me start with a very broad question that I'll put to all of you guys. Looking at the media as it is today, you have practiced media, you have written, Melina, you have stayed on the outside as a researcher and looking at the politics. There is a huge contestation in this country between the media and how we report politics. It is dominated by the government in power, the ruling party which is in power, and the opposition is on the minority. So everybody has their views. You either belong to this side or belong to the other side. There is contestation with major advertisers and how they impact both newsrooms and the journalists who go out to practice. What is your own assessment of the media's capacity to shape public opinion, especially going to a critical election? Every 2 years before an election or 1 year before an election, every newsroom is beginning to prepare itself and plan for how it will cover. Do you think the media is there, can help actually guide opinion?
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of potential. There's a lot of challenges as well, some of which you've mentioned. There's the role of advertisers influencing events. There's the role, reporting rather. There's the role of powerful people with the money to influence journalists, which happens. So these are problems that exist. Then there's problems of having the right number of sources or two sides to every story and this kind of thing. Those all exist, and it's not just unique. It's not unique to Uganda. This happens in elsewhere as well. But I think there's tremendous potential. One, because I think that journalists, as we've seen with the most recent opinion poll, everyone was very interested to see what it said. They were sharing it on email. There were multiple public events about it that people attended, that people watched. People want this information. People want to know what research suggests is happening. They want to know about public opinion. And there's a lot of material that's produced by both independent parties and by government that journalists can do a lot with. If you go to the Ministry of Finance or UBOS, the Uganda Bureau of Statistics, there's a ton of information on almost any topic you could possibly want. The Electoral Commission does an extremely good job putting all of their results online. So it's entirely possible to have access to this information. So it's just a matter of using it in a way that helps the public understand some of the issues.
Edris, some people believe that the media in Uganda especially gets lost in the numbers. We don't do enough research. We don't understand enough to be able to pick out this information. If you pick the budget framework paper, for example,
Yes.
thick document, to be able to pick out what is important, synthesize it, and deliver it to the public, some of the newsrooms, some of us as journalists sometimes have been faulted and said, we actually are incapable of picking out the right information.
Yeah, I think, Charles, one of the biggest problems of the media industry in Uganda is that there's a high turnover of journalists. So the media hasn't developed a mass of experienced journalists. People who would have been able to master a given bit. You get it? Master and be able to.
Why does that happen?
I mean, for a number of reasons. I mean, sometimes it's had to do with pay. You know, the media is not the best paying sector in this country. But you see, generally, so you have this cycle where every time there are new and young journalists who have to go through the drills. Some of those journalists may not be in a position to interpret some of those figures because, I mean, they are new in the industry. But if you had people, say, if people like Dr. Peter Mwesige had stayed in Parliament, assuming they are still not reporting for the Daily Monitor in Parliament, I think they will be in better position to give a better context and a deep analysis of the situation there, simply because of they will be banking on the kind of experience they have used in reporting. So I think, in my view, in a way, those who say that the media may be incapable, in a way they have some point, because one, when you go to the most media houses, the average age is about 25. In Uganda, when someone is 30 years, I mean, they are called senior reporters. I'm just 32 years, and I'm a political editor of a newspaper. Of a newspaper. Ideally, I should be probably just a staff reporter. But because of circumstances, the old people have moved out.
But where does that place the ability of the media, Brad, to what you hear from Melina and Idris, looking on from the outside, that the media can be relied on by people viewing us now to say, you can watch, listen, or read, and know that what you get from this media is something that is going to give you, shape your opinion, help you make a decision that actually moves the country forward. Because if you have a high turnover, like you said, people are dropping out. I have been in the newsroom for the last about 12 years, and I'm very, very senior. I'm a veteran. I should have walked out to go and do PR or do something else. Like the retention capacity. When you read from the outside, do you feel the media has moved or is moving in such a way that it can shape political discussion, can shape economic discussion, can shape social development discussion?
Charles, for a start, let me disagree a bit with Idris here. I don't think in anything, in any career, it's age that determines seniority. I really don't agree with that. I think it's more of the experience and how much work or how much effort you're willing to put in it. Two, the media in Uganda, he has made a very key and valid point. It is about the money. There are very few reporters, journalists, or media people that are actually willing to work for the love of actually the media or giving information or passing on the right information. It has become, everybody has a price. So even from outside, I know that if Chris here did something to me, I can go, I can buy space, and I can run a story on Chris. Same thing he can do to me. So it's become a banter or a fight out there using the media. Keyword, using. People are now using the media to get their information across, but not necessarily for the good or for passing out information to people that's of benefit to the public, but to shape a certain image. As you know, like you mentioned, as PR people, part of what we do is that somebody comes and he has been paid to slam Charles. And then I have to go out there and try and clean the image. But when I'm going to go and clean the image, they're not really interested in Charles's true story. They're interested in how much can I pay to get back, to recount that story or to give a true or clean version.
Why does this thing keep coming up that someone has paid to slam Charles?
Why does it?
Because there are lots of bad things happening. I mean, you see the products of what the media does through the roads that break before a single vehicle drives on them, because the money was stolen. It was stolen by the media. You see these stories when money for government civil servants is not being remitted. for days on end. It's June 1st today. There are many civil servants who haven't been paid money for 3 months, for the last 3 months.
And how many of those stories are running in the papers?
The stories come out in the media, and people say, no, these people are just trying to fight me because I'm the accounting officer.
Yes.
Does that necessarily mean that the media is not?
No, it's we can't necessarily
marketplace.
We can't necessarily say that the media is all and out biased, but we have seen it's a growing trend, especially in the papers. Especially in the papers, you have every day a story that comes out, and if you actually took time, to listen to the other side to know what is actually happening, more than likely the story is not what has been put out there, and it's become now a place where people take out their rivalries. They go into, they've decided, if I can't beat you on TV through an argument, through a debate, what I can do is I can run a story on you. And it will happen the next week and the week after. So it's a battle of who has the most money to pay for the stories to
Chris, when you listen to arguments like this, and I need you guys, the practitioners especially, to come in, because this is what gets bandied around there, and you walk through the streets and you don't know whether you should raise your head up or bow down in shame. Chris, your journey as a reporter from upcountry to come, I remember you working as education editor at the Monitor and starting the education magazine at the Monitor, now investigations editor. When you hear the characterization, the feeling out there, the opinion or the perception that journalists are simply being paid, the contest now is Mbaba's journalists, Museveni journalists. A third camp will emerge. They are opposition candidates for BSG. They are Kadaga journalists. How does it make you feel to wake up in the morning, walk into the newsroom, sit on your computer and type out a story, have your editor process it and get it into the newspaper? Or deploy a journalist and the story they bring to you think they have passed by Brad because Brad has been hired by one of the contenders to shape the story?
Issues are bigger than that. And must, from the word go, say, all the arguments coming on discussion today are right in one way or the other. So there is no argument which is entirely wrong. That's what I'm saying. Brad's argument, yes, may be true, may be wrong, but doesn't make it. We only need to open up now to talk about the media, and I will start by telling you, Charles, we know the state impacts on how the media operates, but we must also admit, as we speak today, more of Uganda's media problems are within the media. And that is not known to the outside world. And the media that pretends to be champions of freedom, advocating for the good of people, transparency, accountability, honesty, integrity, because the public out there has not been empowered to examine those who say those statements. We're able to say basically is a fake leader, this one is this, because we don't have a platform. Then the statement I'm going to tell you, Charles, journalism has no owner. It is the media houses which are owned. And unfortunately in Uganda, there are even practitioners who tend to behave like they own journalism. And therefore, if
you can't own journalism, you can own journalists.
No, but owning a journalist doesn't mean you own journalism. I'm sure Melina is getting the gist of this argument. You can't own journalism. Journalism is a profession. It has no owner. But there are media people, either because they own media houses or because they are practiced for long, they assume they are owners and to bring dictates on what ought to be done. This is the normative arguments come and it's just hopeless. The other statement I will make is the media is the only democratic business the world has ever invented. What do I mean? You cannot lie that you're a good journalist. You can't lie that you're a good media house. You can't say for us we do this. Because ultimately, journalism is a communication. If it has not been received, communication is incomplete. You can talk how you're a powerful journalist, but if your media house is not selling, if your radio nobody tunes to it, you are good at somebody talking to himself. You're doing a monologue and you think you are
the beauty
wise.
Is that you host
yes. In other words, you could be assumed to have a mental problem. Because you think you know, and therefore when you talk, you influence the things. But if you own a media house, how many Ugandans will believe that what you are talking is what they want? And you cannot talk what people don't want and you think you know. So that I told you, that is self-deception coming out of elitism. You decide to say this is good, this is bad. Who tells you? Finally, it must be consumed. That newspaper, that radio, that television, thank God, NTV is lessened. That means Forces State is on the thing. We do the thing. So leave others who want to know, you know, this kind of it is a rumor, it is a gossip, it is this. You can never, Charles, claim to be wiser than the community. Let's forget about it. Knowledge is not with Obore, it's not with Melina, it is with the people. I told you off air that if you get a PhD graduate who merited that PhD, that professor who became a professor through a process, they are the most humble of education achievers. Because they know knowledge is not resident in one entity. Knowledge is diverse, even to get it. But you see journalists, for us, this is very useless. But you are
actually the interesting thing.
You are as politically engaged and motivated as those you are accusing.
I think, Chris,
yes,
I don't think the media in Uganda has portrayed itself as the most knowledgeable. Maybe you can say particular media practitioners, but not as a blanket statement. You know, the media has a main role of shaping opinion, one of the key roles.
Who says?
That's one of the
According
key,
to who?
One of the key. I mean, it's a self-appointed role.
Even the media shaped opinion,
It
there will be
is,
no
it is.
corruption in Uganda.
No, it is a role. It is a role of the media.
The media plays a role in shaping opinion.
Yes.
It is not the ultimate shaper of opinion.
And that's what I say.
Yes.
It plays a role. And it shapes opinion using facts and certain information.
It helps shape opinion.
Yes.
Yes.
By using facts and certain information available to it.
So if the information is inaccurate, if the information is not verified, then what kind of opinion does it help to shape?
We're not supposed to
But
force
Charles,
certain opinions.
I'm afraid we need to take a break. Let's pick up this discussion. Especially, we'll be focusing when we come out of the break on the journey to 2016, the role and place of the media on that journey. We'll be right back.